All right, it's your boy BQ. Welcome to the Recipe Podcast where the game is sold, not told. And I'm with a very special guest in the building, B.Amechi in the building.
Hey, we here. It's exclusive now.
This is real exclusive. And for me, this is very exciting, because I met Homeboy for about a couple years now. And we connected at Trapxart. I think it was in the city at the, it was in Manila Gallery. It was the other one.
The one we had upstairs. I remember with the rooftop.
Yeah, and then you were like, hey, get in the shot. You're like, get in the shot, follow through, you know what I'm saying? And we just made it all hype. And at that point, I was very curious to learn more about you. And now we're here, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So go ahead and introduce yourself for the people that don't know who you are and let them know where you came from. And yeah.
Well, it's positive energy and good vibes, as I always say. My name is B.Amechi. Very pleased to be here. I'm the media director of Trapxart, which is the event where you met me at. If you're in the Bay Area, Trapxart is, really outside the Bay Area too, because we've been traveling, moving all over the world, you know. So, but Trapxart mainly is an event that we throw where we bring artists, entrepreneurs, we bring really the community together. And
shout out to Amina. That's how I
shout out to Amina and Jesse, the founders of Trapxart. And we basically have, these art parties. We'll come through and have a party, but we'll have art displaying. We'll have these entrepreneurs, clothing brands, whatever it is, highlighting what they do. But we also, on the media side, do a lot as well. Like we have magazines, that we come out with, different fashion brands and whatnot. We have fashion shows. Yep. We do a lot of different things. So, my role is kind of like, the media director, but as you know, when you're working with like a small business or something that growing and it, starts from, core people, but, grows into something bigger, there's always multiple hats that you're wearing. There's always different things that you're doing. So that's what that's about, though. And
this is why it's really, really important for me to have brought you in here. You know what I'm saying? Because for one, a lot of the people I brought into this podcast have been, from people into the business scene, the creative aspect, even the educational portion, from people that are more involved with school. But for me, it was more trying to give like a people insight on like what it really goes on behind the scenes. Because like how you said, there's multiple hats, but people always have, at least entrepreneurs that are in the beginning process have a perception that might be different. And then actually when you dive into that process, you realize that there's actually hella more shit you got to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Delegation is something I always have had to, work on. But if you're a leader, that's something I consider that I am. Like, if you're a leader, you help lead people. Like, that means that you're helping inspire other people to be confident in themselves and to be functional and do different things. So I think, a big part of any business is wearing multiple hats, because like you're going to always find something new. Like, oh, I wanted to do this and focus on this, but I didn't consider this part. And like now I figure out there's a whole different thing that I don't know. That's why I feel like it's so important that, a lot of people think when they out of school, like they're done learning, growing. No. You have to
learning is forever. Learning is
forever. You always have to learn. You got to be thinking like, what am I learning right now in my life? What am I teaching myself in life right now? Like there's always something physically, mentally, spiritually, in your business, education. Like you should always be doing something that is letting you grow. You know what I mean? So I feel like that's a big part of getting into business, getting into entrepreneurship, being independent. Just basically finding out a lot of new stuff. You find out something, you get kind of on this rabbit hole, and you got to figure out the best way that you can do what you need to do.
Agree. And I feel like within that process, we don't even realize it, but we're actually testing our capacity. You know what I mean? Like we're actually in the midst. For me speaking, like, because off camera we were talking about a little bit about your educational background. Right. I didn't even know you went to Santa Clara University.
Santa Clara University. We in San Jose right now. I haven't been down here in a long time, but man, San Jose is like a love-hate relationship. I don't know, like it's some people call it Man Jose. I don't know if you know that.
I don't know that. Woo, San Jose, how it is?
Because all the tech, opportunities, a bunch of dudes out here. But
yeah, for sure.
But yeah, San Jose is it's love-hate relationship, man. I've had a lot of San Jose is like one of the dopest places. If you go and you visit, especially when they had the Super Bowl out here, you look around like all the venues and whatnot. It's like, why isn't this popping all the time? Like, why isn't this just like the most popular thing all the time? It's beautiful out here, but it's such a mix of like
diverse. It's very diverse.
So, but anyways, I'm not gonna cut you off.
No, it's all good. I appreciate you elaborating, because for me, it's like the reason why this podcast is there's multiple reasons why it was important. Information, and on top of that, it's collaboration, right? So you're representing like, East Bay, Oakland, you know what I'm saying? Hayward, different diverse background. Me coming from South San Jose, born and raised, representing with my chest out, you know what I'm saying? San Jose, everything. Right, but the thing with that is that like, I didn't even know that Man Jose term existed. You feel me? So I'm over here like thrown off a little bit. But like what you were touching on about like the tech aspect and about like when the Super Bowl happened, because the Super Bowl was a big part. And I want to say, because like there's a lot of culture behind San Jose that people don't know about, that's not in the surface. So like, during the Super Bowl, there was a lot of gentrification going on, right? So there was over here like, there's a big a big part in San Jose in the center, St. James Park. It's like a homeless park. Like so many homeless people live there, right? And then when the news is going around that the Super Bowl was coming, and we started noticing a lot of people were getting pushed in the south, whereas like where I live in the south part of San Jose, and we started noticing like how homeless people like getting pushed all the way down to Monterey Road, which is the oldest city in San Jose. It goes all the way from Gilroy to like end of downtown. So it's a long ass road. But like just to see how like San Jose is kind of handling some of the culture, you know what I'm saying? Because right now a lot of people, just to give you some game on what's going on in San Jose, like a lot of the murals that we have that represent like the raza and the minorities, the community, like they're starting to like erase them.
And do what?
And just the business owners that buy the property, they will like eliminate the culture. You get what I'm saying? Like they're not mindful about it. Obviously I can understand the perspective of someone that has money, comes into the city, and they just try to like buy some property and eliminate what's around there, but they're not being mindful of like what that means to some people, So like, what are your thoughts about that? Because I know some of that is happening in Oakland as we speak. So like, what's your opinion about gentrification right now?
I gotta take the mic out on this one. Yeah, I'm not. We was talking about learning earlier. I'm not as well versed in the gentrification as I should be. I actually one of the brands I met through Trapxart, Run the World Clothing. They always have these really interesting releases whenever they come out with new clothes. Like they don't just have like a fashion show or just have like people modeling and do some photo shoots. They'll usually do something that's educational to get people to know what the brand is about. And so they did a release where I helped out. I was acting in it, and it was about gentrification of Oakland, the history of that, and kind of like where they would move people around and what the strategies were around that and whatnot. And gentrification, like the story you brought up about the murals, for example, it's like it comes down to ownership. That's like the real big conversation right now too. Gentrification is like ownership. That's really what it comes down to. Agreed. And I can't stress like how important it is. Like ownership is everything. And I'm not somebody who has all the I can tell you X, Y, and Z. How you can what we can do as communities to kind of keep what we have. But at the end of the day, like I said, I've been doing a lot of traveling in the past 2 years. Brooklyn, Houston, like any major city you go to, they're experiencing something similar, like they're experiencing some aspect of gentrification. And it's like, it just makes you think sometimes, like you were mentioning the homeless people. I know that park very well. I used to randomly go out. Well, nothing's random, but I used to go out and, make sandwiches and give them out to the homeless people out there from time to time, because there's a lot of them. And that's one of those things where it's like, you just wonder, like, where do people go? I always, it's hot right now. Every time it's cold and it's raining, I'm like, damn, like it's people on the streets right now. Like, that's exactly what are they doing? Like every time I'm sick, like going through, I'm like, damn, like what are the people on the streets doing right now? Like, so, but in terms of your question, my thoughts on it, I think I'm not going to be, have a solution to solve everything right now, but I do know that one of the keys and what I do my best to always preach and advocate and champion is ownership, man. We got to own 100%. Everything. We have to have the mindset to own everything. You can't just, change our murals and whatnot if we own those buildings. You know what I'm saying?
For them to get rid of it to begin with.
Exactly. So I just, but there's always a balance too. When your business comes into a community, you got to be of the community. You got to, know what is really important. You have to be. You can't just come in here and do your thing. You got to be a part of the community. You know what I mean? So I think there's always a balance with that. Because not everybody can own everything. But I will say this before we transition to what you want to talk to about next. I'm in the process of buying a home right now. Like I'm in that process of looking at homes, looking at properties and all that. And I'm actually gonna probably make a podcast about this myself. But the whole concept of just that the pyramid theory, where it's like, I don't know if that's the official term, but like the higher up you get, like the better the houses are, the more affluent the neighborhoods are. The bottom to the hill you get, that's where there's a lot of more poverty, crime, et cetera. Like the property value goes much down. And I can like physically, literally see that when I'm driving through these neighborhoods in Oakland and whatnot and looking at these areas. And one thing about it though is when you go to like the bad areas where there's sometimes a house that's been flipped and it's, it's fixed up and it's nice, but it's still not in the best area and whatnot. Like I look at some of those neighborhoods sometimes and I'm like, we could easily change this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
facts.
there's trash on the street. There's, you know, graffiti on the wall. There's all these things. Like, it doesn't have to be this way.
Yeah.
You know, if we took pride, if we took ownership, and we took, you know, the fact that this is my house, like, this is my community. Like, if we all had that mindset, we could actually change some of these things and increase. When you start with yourself and increase what you think about yourself and have self-respect for yourself, you'll have respect for the people around you, the people in your community, your neighborhood. Everything will just grow in value.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You're going to be on a different hype. So I just feel like I'm going on a tangent. But in terms of gentrification, I feel like ownership is key.
So, like, so to touch on that subject, what do you feel like are some of the challenges that make people in the community not realize that?
Some of the challenges, I mean, I think my mindset, you know, is always on not so much the excuses and not so much, you know, we could talk about history, we could talk about institutionalized racism, we could talk about so many different things that are valid and we can talk about, but I just feel like at the end of the day, like, life isn't fair. Like, nothing's fair. Like, if you like, you can use anything you're at as a positive. There's a lot of people that, you know, where you talk about like The Rock having $3 to his name and finding a way out of that. There's plenty of stories you can go through of people who didn't have anything, who made their way out. And I think as a community, it just has to be, you know, a mindset. And I think there's, you know, we can talk about programs, you know, things like that. But again, it starts in the household. I feel like it's the main thing. Like, it starts with, you know, the parents, the mothers and fathers. It starts with, you know, like, just being able to teach your kids and teach your households, like, just a level of respect where you're not going to go out there and want to, like, simple things. Like, I mean, like, trash in the community. I'm talking about that leads to an environment and an energy of, oh, if I see you walking down the same street as me, like, you know, I'm not going to look at you with the respect because I don't have respect for myself.
Yeah,
so,
I see what you're saying.
You know, like, you're a threat to me because I'm a threat to my, you know, so I think
morals.
it's about the mindset. You know, if we can just flip that and get to a situation where we have more pride in who we are, it doesn't matter how little you have. It doesn't matter, like, you know, what you have to your name. Like, just have pride in yourself. You know? So I think that's key.
I agree with that 100% too, because, like, you know, in San Jose, a few areas that are low economic that people are familiar with, like South Park or San Jose, mainly like East San Jose, is like a very huge demographic. Everybody talks about, like, you know, the streets, like, just how they're how the transportation, like, businesses, like, everything you could just tell is like poverty. So it's really interesting how we don't really take the pride to, like, clean up these streets and, like, clean up after ourselves. And just, like, I feel like how you said that's a very big point, is like how everything was brought up in the household, you know what I'm saying, like, within our family, especially like in Latino culture. Like, a lot of us are like taught a specific way how to grow up, especially for being first generation, because, like, you know, like, for example, like, my family, they come from Nicaragua, and there's, like, right now there's like a civil war going on right now. So it's like, you know, there's what's that word, it's a dictatorship that they're trying to oppress people. And so that forced people to come over here. My dad came when he was 18 years old, fled to Miami, visa expired, said, fuck it, I'm going to LA, went to the Bay, and stayed in San Jose for the rest of his life. So, like, you know, our perspective was like, you know, you got to be grateful for what you have. You got to work hard for what you have. And, like how you said, like, it's not fair. Life ain't fair. Like, it's not going to work with you. It's going to work against you. So you got to find avenues that's going to make you versatile enough to, like, put you in a position to succeed. So it's like not everyone is in that perspective, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you mentioned too, like, of your culture from Niger. You know what I'm saying? Like, Nigeria.
Hey, you see it?
You know what I'm saying? Like, one of my
Nigers, what up?
A few of my best friends are Nigerian too. So, like, I could definitely relate, because, like, when I go to their household, it's always respectful, always saying hi, bye to the mom and dad. Like, you know, it's always respectful household. So it's like some people that don't come from these backgrounds, that are born already into an environment like the United States, let's just say they're second generation, they're not really accustomed to these morals, because, like, maybe the family ain't really, how you say, structured. So the only family they can lean on is their brothers and sisters outside on the streets. You get what I'm saying? Because I can relate on that level too, because, you know, I was the youngest in my family. So, like, my brother and sister, they're like 10 years older than me. So all the people I would lean on were people I went to school with. And the school I went to was, like, low economic too. So I'm over here chilling with my homies and shit. We smoking, we doing all these things. It's like, it's really easy to fall victim to what is considered a normality. In other words, like, failure, you know, because not a lot of people of color make it into, like, tech or to these big established industries right now that are booming. So it's like, it's really interesting, you know what I'm saying? Because it's almost like it's designed in a certain way, right?
Absolutely.
So, like, I want to transition this into the tech subject, because I feel
if I can say a few words about that, though,
please,
because I appreciate your story, and I appreciate, you know, like, it kind of puts things in perspective, like you said, because not everybody's from backgrounds like we have, you know, where it's easy for me to say self-respect, like have value when I've been around Second that, nature, you know, so, sure. But not everybody's around that, you know, exactly. And I totally empathize with you. My father sold his motorcycle in Nigeria for a plane ticket here, became an ice cream man, then, you know, like he built his way up to like on a real American dream, you know, where it's like, and you talking about the dictatorship going on and whatnot, it's like, when we really think about it, man, we have like not a lot. We haven't made out here. We haven't
fucking made. People don't even fucking realize that shit.
Like when you really like with the things people complain about and whatnot, it's like
ridiculous.
We haven't made out here, right?
Yeah,
so,
facts.
But I think like two things I would say to that. Like, one, I always say this is kind of like one of my sayings: be inspired, aspire, inspire. It's a cycle of inspiration. Being inspired is a skill. You know what I'm saying? The ability to, if you're having a bad day, if you're in a bad mood, if you have like a lot of negativity around you, but you see the most simple thing, like somebody comes on the street and says, "Oh, these are some dope shoes, those some dope Pumas you got on." Like, be like, "Oh, you know, you can get a stranger from a compliment. It really means something." Because it's like, okay, you don't have to say that. Like, just use that to like, okay, I'm gonna carry that feeling. Like, you know what? I may have just lost, you know, a few dollars doing X, Y, and Z, but I know at least I look good right now. I can feel good. I can have good energy. I can. Whatever it is, be inspired and like let that carry you on into like having, you know, energy, positive energy with you. I feel like that's key. It's a skill. Be inspired. And once you do that, then you must aspire. You have to figure out, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? What is it that's gonna be my purpose that I'm gonna go to, that I'm gonna, you know, push hard? You know, and once you do that, you inspire somebody else. You know, somebody else could see that and they'll be like, you know what, like, even though I'm from this household, even though like my parents didn't show me this, even though I'm in high school with like people who are on some other shit, I see this one kid in my high school who's doing something else, and I like what he's doing. Instead of like, you know, listening to all the voices out here, listening to all the negativity, instead of hearing like the I can't, instead of the hearing like a lot of that all too. That, instead of all the negativity, all the institute, I'm gonna just follow this because I'm inspired. I'm gonna go with it. So, you know, I feel like that's a key circle. And the other thing is, you know, I feel like life it's a simple equation, man. It's your events plus your reactions equal your outcomes. You know, a lot of people think that they control their outcomes if they, you know, work really hard. If they do, like we said earlier, life isn't fair. You never know you never know what's going to happen, even if you put yourself in the best position. But all you can do is put yourself in the best position. So always react positively. Like that's all you can control. Like you can always choose how you're going to react to anything that happens to you. So I just feel like always react positively. You're like I knew from the first time I met you, you know what I mean? Like I'm all about energy. Your energy is like off the charts, you know what I mean? Like I can tell, like, I don't know, you know, what you're doing. It doesn't matter. I could tell, like, you're getting it, and it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. Period. Period. I don't, you know, it's like there's certain people, like when I'm around them, I don't worry about, like, you know, I can like not really check out your page for a minute or what. I'm not worried. I know, like I know, like in a year from now or 3 months from now, you're gonna be just have hella videos out. They're gonna be hella views. Like you never know when that hit's gonna happen, but I know it because I can feel that energy. And I just feel like people. That's like kind of like an entrepreneur mindset, I think, a little bit of, but some entrepreneurs could not have that ability. You gotta be positive, man. You gotta just react positively and just go for it.
I could piggyback on that. You know, two things like from Nipsey said is master your energy, right? That's one of the things he said, and one of the quotes he said is that the highest human act is to inspire people every day. Search for inspiration, and I thought that was some real shit because I'm like, you know, because there's some situation where I'm just like, you know. Like, and that's why I'm really grateful you came because you give me some energy I need, you know what I'm saying? So like when you talk about like controlling your reaction, that's 100% true, you know what I'm saying? Because people, life ain't fair, shit will happen every single day. You know, you're going to work already knowing what your situation's going to be at, and you're going to think about it as a negative. But at the end of the day, like you could approach it in a whole different manner, you know what I mean? Because like if we were to go back like what 6-7 months ago, I don't even know what the fuck I was dealing with. You know what I'm saying? So the fact that I'm in a situation where I'm like enjoying what I'm doing, I'm not where I want to be at, but my attitude is like
you're on the journey.
I'm on the journey. You know what I'm saying? I'm accepted to this process and I'm happy about it. So it's like, you know, I think it's good. You know, I hope people take away some of the words right now, man, because these are some fucking gems.
I don't understand like when I'm in the morning, like you talk about people going to work. Like most people hate their job.
Yep.
I get it. Like it's like I understand. Like okay, but like what can you do? Exactly. Like what can you go on BART in the morning, like in the AM, like early in the morning?
People are hot.
look at people on the train in the morning. Like everybody got their headphones in, which is not a problem with that. That's fine. But like, you know, like you were all packed like sardines anyways, and then it's just this. Everybody's looking down, just like Damn, and I know people are hurting. I know people are going through things. There's a lot going on, like, you know, we talked about. But like we said earlier, realize what you do have. I feel like when you're appreciative of what you do have,
it's gratitude. Yeah,
that's gratitude. That's love. That's energy that you give the things that you're appreciative to. Like if I'm appreciative of this meal right now. You're gonna enjoy it that much more. Like it may not be the best meal, but like, damn, so I'm eating right now.
Yeah,
like I'm gonna just like that's good. You know what I mean? Like let's give the things that deserve appreciation like the right energy. So
hell yeah, and it's like, you know, I feel like the energy, like, it's so transferable. You know what I'm saying? Like the way you came in here with that energy, you know, I was just like, I gotta get over here. You know what I'm saying? I gotta get this, and I gotta go do some other things outside of work. And I'm over here thinking about about these other things, but I'm not even being. And that's what happens when you don't master your energy, or like how you say, have gratitude towards the situation, because your mind is like somewhere else, but in your physical sense, you're dealing with something that you could be appreciative about. But at the end of the day, you're just like, you're not having the best attitude towards that. So yeah, props to you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, man. The mindset. I've never heard that quote from Nipsey, but I'll have to like check that out.
Put it on my board. Like, I needed that
for sure. That's dope.
But yeah, man. So like, there's a lot of things going on in the Bay Area. You know, people don't realize the Bay Area itself is so unique. It's one of the most diverse places in the fucking world. It's actually statistically ranked number 2 or 3 most diverse city in the world.
You know what number?
Behind like Argentina or some shit like that. I might be inaccurate, but that was something I read an article about a couple months back. And I think that's 100% factual. You know, when I look at my circle of friends, I got Nigerian, Nicaraguense, Honduran, white, Asian. I'm just like, and all my homies get along so well. You know what I'm saying? And like when I travel to other places, you know what I'm saying, it's a little different. Like people don't realize that shit. When you get outside your box, it's like, what the fuck? These motherfuckers don't even realize how cool the other culture is. You just gotta taste it one time and you realize it's not that bad, you know? And you know, there's such a big, like, how you say, big, like, what? Stigma on like race right now. There's so much hate going on right now with like social media and like police brutality and minorities and Donald Trump and like Latinos getting pushed out the board. There's just so much shit. Like every ethnicity has like attention right now when it comes to politics, right? So I think it's so interesting when you find a place like the Bay Area where everyone just gets along. We just happy that the Dubs about to get this Game 3 right now. Like we just hype about other shit, you know? So it's like when I went to Phoenix to do the Heated Soul Summit, which is an event, like a trade show. And bro, I had somebody try to check me because I'm over here trying to get my vendor stuff in the back, because this is at the Phoenix Sun Stadium, right? So the back place is like where we're trying to enter. All these people are coming in and out. I don't got a car, so I take an Uber, right? I got all my shit in the Uber, and then these people are trying to like talk down on me, right? But there's a difference. It's not what you say.
What you mean talk down on you?
Like, you know what I mean? Like entitlement, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not what you say, it's how you say it, right? So you're telling me I can't do certain things, but you're trying to like put me in a position where like you're talking down on me. So I didn't take that lightly. And it's just like, you know, this type of energy wouldn't happen elsewhere. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel like, you know, the Bay Area, I just want to shout out the Bay Area one time. Shout out to
absolutely. You know, but yeah, the Bay Area, it's grass is not even the grass is always green. It's kind of like you take it for granted. Like like I said, I've been doing a lot of traveling, and you go to these other cities and whatnot. Number one, the weather. You know, like I know it's super hot right now, but yeah, we're paying for the weather. But we also pay for that openness, that diversity, because you know, other places in the world, you know, in the States, other places in the States is just a whole different mindset. Like, I just, you know, like, I love Asian food, man. Like, I love Asian food. Out here, it's just like you can have anything you want in terms of what you want to eat. There's all these different cultures. I just grew up in that my whole life, and so you take it for granted a little bit. And when you go to different places, it's really highlighted. You can really see that. So yeah, the diversity out here is you know, it's fantastic. It's amazing. Bay Area is a wonderful place.
It's crazy you talk about food too, because I work right now. One of my boys, he's like an Asian cat, and he was telling me like, hey, they have this burrito with Korean barbecue in it. And I'm like, I never heard of a burrito with a different type of meat other than carne asada and pollo and all this other shit. So I'm like, you know, it's the culture itself is just so unique, that the fact that we can integrate our own culture within each other, you know what I'm saying? So
and a lot of people just not on your you know, you can't concern yourself like the situation in Phoenix. Like, you can't concern yourself with, you know, somebody's on their own hype. They're like they haven't been experienced. They maybe didn't grow up in the same area. You know, whatever. You gonna get those roadblocks type people. But again, with the energy thing, it's like, you know, it's funny, like I was talking about Bart earlier and how like people are usually in a negative mood. Another place like that is like the airport in the morning. If you go to the airport, if you've ever been like an hour or 2 hours like on time for your flight, where you're just chilling,
people watching.
People are just like they airport is crazy too, because people, you know, they rush in, they use big lines. It's like they're so antsy. But if you come early and you chilling,
man, TSA bitch.
But if you come early and you chilling, it's like a whole different mindset, right? And you see people and how frantic they are and whatnot. It's like, I love being positive in the midst of negativity. I love it. Like if somebody's like in your situation, like hating on me, like because I'm driving Uber or something, it's like I would like laugh. You know what I mean? Like I would like literally laugh. You know, because you can't let other people's energy get to you unless it's positive. Like you mentioned earlier, like coming in here, the energy's up. Like I love that, you know. But if it's something that's negative, even if it's somebody who's, you know, like doesn't really have the energy, I'm gonna bring the energy up. You know, I always was told that about interviews. Like it's up to the interviewer to make sure that it's a good interview. People be like, "Oh, I'm nervous." I'm like, no, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. It's like I got you. Like we just gonna have a conversation.
Yeah.
You know,
big facts. So, man. First off, match that energy, man. Take the time to take some self-reflection, look at yourself, and think about the energy you put out. And then if it's bad energy, it's okay. Take ownership to it. You know what I'm saying? Because there's always a way to get better. It's about taking ownership of yourself, looking yourself in the mirror, realizing that's what you are. Once you know where you stand, it's easier to just go forward. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, man. So right now we in the hub. You know, we in Silicon Valley. Hey. You know what I'm saying? So right now, there's a tech boom going on. You know, there's pros and cons to it. The pros is that it's disrupting. I mean, some people might see it as a con, but it's disrupting every single industry, retail, truck driving, to everything. And with that being said, a lot of jobs are getting eliminated. A lot of jobs from ones that we don't even think about because we're so grateful. I mean, some of us don't even realize that we take it for granted, right? From an article I was reading about is that they're saying that retail businesses are going to go out of business, transitioning out of business within the next 4 to 5 years. Because, like, you know, for example, Amazon taking out Toys R Us, Netflix knocking out Blockbuster and Hollywood Video. Like, it's a small micro version of it, but it's just getting more effective. If you go on Snapchat right now, they've already implemented their AI technology where you could just, let's just say I'm snapping, I'm looking at the camera, I'll hold it, and it'll pop up an Amazon link with 5 different cameras that you can buy on the spot. So it's like, I be watching a lot of Gary V's content, and he kind of makes that a point that that's really what's going on. Right. And now that, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier about entrepreneurship and about education. Like for me, I went to community college. I went for 3 years. I dropped out. Went through some bullshit. And I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do it because I had some self-awareness. I was like, you know what? This isn't what I want to do. Right. I want to learn my own. Right. And I realized I had a skill, and that skill was salesmanship. That skill was having the confidence. I'm not scared. I'm just go all out. You know what I'm saying? Balls out, whatever the case may be. And I feel like it put me in a position to learn a lot about tech. And once I realized that, you know, tech is kind of like around us, right? And having the ability to learn more skills and, like, how you say, I don't want to go off topic because I'm over here losing my train of thought. But because what I'm saying is that, like, we're seeing people from San Jose, like, that grew up, like, let's just say low economic, poverty, like in the ghetto, whatever the case may be, like Seven Trees, East San Jose, like, people know what I'm talking about that listen to this. We didn't know shit about tech. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't really introduced to tech until like 2-3 years out of college, like not even like a year out of college or like a year, like my last year in college. And we were aware that Apple was like, it founded in Cupertino at De Anza College where I went to school at. We were aware that Google was down the block, but we didn't realize how much it contributed to the whole economy. Right. You know, we contribute to 60% of the whole economy. California could be its own state if they wanted to. I mean,
Google and Apple are, you know, I always say they're like more important than the government.
It damn near
have more power than the government.
They got stupid power. And the fact that, like, you know,
the thing about, I mean, they have like, you know, if you want to think about what all these companies could be doing, and I always assume the worst. You know, a lot of people, like, if they have their computers, they'll put tape on like the camera because they don't want to. I never do stuff like that because I'm like, if they really want to know, they'll know. If we say, you know, if we said Pringles, you know, 30 times right now, I'm sure on your phone an ad would pop up for Pringles. Like, everything's listening, everything's watching. That's just how I look at things, man. It's like you have Google Maps and you have all your locations, your GPS, like. You know, they have so much power. If you think about how one would want to, if they wanted to, you know, misuse that, it's a lot of power. But I don't think about, you know, conspiracies. I do my best not to think about too much.
At the end of the day, there's no gray area. It's black or white. Like, these motherfuckers are booming. They're obviously accelerated. And this is the thing about the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, is that they said this on one of the ESPN shows when they're talking about the Warriors. They're like, the Bay Area is the highest level of concentration of intelligence. Like, you got motherfuckers all over the world that come here from VCs, half of the world's billionaires. You know, I interviewed Ruben Harris. Do you know who Ruben Harris is? The guy?
I believe so. Which one is
he's
that?
the owner of Career Karma. He's like, I know, he's from San Francisco. Initially he's from Atlanta. He like came over to San Francisco to start the company with 2 other founders, Arter and Timur. Okay. And they're like booming some shit right now. Like they're really, so what they do is that they break into tech with people from non-traditional backgrounds. Okay. So they interview people that were like Latino, that are African American, because statistically, like we're the lowest percent in all these companies. Right. So they get stories from these people that were from the Bronx and his family was Crips and they grew up in the neighborhood. And you're like, I didn't know no people in tech would like live a lifestyle like that. You know what I mean? Because we think so like a stigma. You know what I'm saying? So like Ruben really put me on a lot of information. And this is last year, like a year and a half ago. I put out the podcast I did with him like 3 months ago, but I interviewed him last year and I barely put it out. And as of that time period, I took so much time to learn so much more about tech because I was like, I just don't feel like, and knowing myself, I'm like, I play football. I grew up in South San Jose. I'm like, tech ain't for me, bro. Like, that's just not me. And he's like, and I was like, I edit videos though. You know, I do little Adobe and shit. He's like, if you could do Adobe, you could code. Right. He's like, you could do that shit. And when he told me that so confidently, I didn't look at him right, you know. And how I met him is that there was a workshop in West San Jose at a little small bar. My teacher, I'm still cool with my teacher from Oak Grove, and he's all like, come through. He invited me. Long story short, there was 11 people there. Nobody showed up, not even knowing how big Ruben was. And he was with another guy named Steve Canal. Steve Canal is like a big individual who like is from Atlanta. He hosts big workshops, more oriented to like the Black community and stuff like that. So he's hella dope. And he brought me, I shot him with a text. I'm like, hey, I'm trying to network. He invited me to his spot, to his business location in Folsom in San Francisco. I'm like, bet. I just came on some spontaneous shit. I'm gonna just go. Right. And then I knocked on the door, showed up. You know, I'm over here like, I'm thinking tech. I'm thinking about people that are like engineers. You know what I'm saying? They dress a little differently than I am. I'm coming in sweats, J's, my hat backwards, my Kaepernick shirt. I'm just ready to chill. So when I break in, what I really appreciate about that community in the tech world is that they're so accepting to who you are. You know what I'm saying? Like they're, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people that don't take the time to learn about tech, they're just like, oh, these are some nerds. Like, these guys are some weirdos. Like, you know what I mean? That's a real common conversation. I don't know how it is, like, from what you hear, but I know a lot of people say that. So, like, when they took me in, they actually knew that I actually had some information to share. They were like, it's really interesting how the urban community is, like, not accepting to the tech world. You know what I'm saying? Instead of trying to bridge that gap and figuring out where our influence can leverage into there. So
I see a lot of, like, you know, in schools, like with the younger generation, like when you look at art, you know, like when we were growing up, it was a little bit different in terms of, you know, like it was mainly like, you know, I play sports too, you know, and I feel like, you know, and I did, like now I have a media company and all that. I've directed plays in college. I directed plays in high school, you know, stuff like that. But like I didn't really fully consider it because it was like, you know, that's kind of similar to what you're saying about, you know, tech being nerds. It was like, you know, drama, acting, like that type of stuff. It's like, no, I play sports. Like, I did different things, but it was kind of like something I never really took seriously.
I see what you're saying.
And like, I feel like this generation right now, I see it a lot with trap art, you know, through the trap art community. There's a lot of young artists, a lot of young, like, and it's not like the stigma of like, oh, they're different, they're nerds, as much as like now it's like cool, you know, it's cool to be an artist. Like it's, from what I see at least, like it's cool to be an artist. It's cool to have your own brand. It's cool to be painting and doing all that. Like I see like a lot of young people involved in art. And I think tech is like very similar because like, you know, in the artist community, there's no judging because like everything's art. In the tech community, it's kind of like, what can you do? Like, it's not like really like, you know, I think in other professions, like, well, you know, it's accounting, which is my background, or like finance or things like that. It's like, there's, depending on where you're at, there's like a corporate culture of like, this is what you do. You have to do this to move up the ladder. And, you know, like, but I think tech is something, and art in general is something where it's a lot more freedom. So those characteristics should appeal and apply to our areas even more, to those areas where there's, you know, like the economic disadvantages, the areas where, because that's where the creativity is. I mean, that's where the culture is. That's everything, you know, that's mainstream in society. Like the most of it, a lot of it comes from like, you know, the culture. And I feel like, you know, people like say hip hop culture, just culture in general, like, you know, in our communities. Like, so I think that tech definitely like needs to be people need to realize, and there's that stigma that you talked about earlier, like that block that people have of I can't do this. I can't. I was for sure one of them. You know what I mean? And I think we got to find a way to, you know, break through that. We had to find a way to, you know, like, and to you, like I was saying earlier, be inspired, inspire. You were inspired because you saw this guy. You saw how he was like. That is what brought you in. Then you were aspiring. Maybe from this interview, somebody else would come along. Like it's just a circle. So when you see something that potentially like, yeah, this is positive. I want to give it a chance. I want to give it a go. Why would you not do it? Think about if you didn't go. Yeah, exactly. You said there was a bunch of people who didn't go to that event, the initial event. Like a lot of people didn't show up. It's wasted opportunities. What were they doing? Playing video games on Instagram. When you say tech, a lot of people think, oh yeah, Instagram. I'm on Instagram. I mean, Instagram's tech. I mean, it's it's
a platform
but there's a lot out there. Like, what are you spending 90% of your time on your phone on? Like all the apps out there in the world, what are you using? Like Instagram. I mean, if you make like those are great apps for depending on how you're using them. But how are you using what you're doing with your time? Like that's really what it comes down to. Like,
hell yeah. And like it's crazy how you said like imagine if I didn't go there, how much it wouldn't have changed my life, right? And it's crazy just to put on some more details on that. What happened is, once I learned, I took the time to educate myself, and then I was like, I'm trying to get into tech because at this time, like I needed a job to balance out what I'm doing with my business because at the same time, we wasn't making enough financially to keep funding. This is the thing about running a business is that it's trial and error. You know what I'm saying? You're going to learn throughout that whole process, investing into yourself. At the end of the day, I would rather invest into myself versus I invest into someone else first. Because I know some people that are like, oh, I save up money to invest into other things. That's your thing. For me, I'm a bet on myself because
do both.
You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously do both, but you know what I'm saying? But if you down to your last money, you got to be smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
but I mean, real quick, I know you're not even going down that path, but I mean, there's always, you don't need $100,000 to be an investor. Like sure even if you live in check to check, you find a way to make a little bit more, and then you can invest in other things. You find different ways to save. You just have to have basic financial literacy. Like every dollar you get, like put 10 cents to your savings. Every dollar you get, put 10 cents to invest it in something else. Put 4 cents to yourself. I'm saying cents, like it was a dime, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm talking about.
I hear what you're saying. Like, and that's another thing too, is that people need to take the time to learn some financial literacy because some of us are just going based on a calculator. Yeah. Which is the same shit, but so like from what I took from that information, that whole situation with Ruben is I was like, damn, like how do I get into tech? I'm gonna try and get a job. Like I want to get a job at least so I can sustain myself, and maybe if shit don't work out with Emlyn or my business, I have something to fall on. You know what I'm saying? Because some of us are chasing a dream or a passion or a business because we don't believe in the system right now. We don't believe in these jobs that are supplied to us, especially for ones that didn't go to college. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because right now, an AA degree is damn near a high school degree now. Right. You know what I'm saying? So 9 months later, I was introduced to a lot of people I know were really tough in the tech space. And then now I'm grateful to be a current SDR at Memory Blue, which is a sales development representative. And that's like entry level to tech. So that's like kind of like utilizing your sales skills to get in there. So luckily,
congratulations, you changed your life.
Hell yeah, dramatically, bro. Because now I'm like seeing the whole tech perspective inside now versus outside in. So that's how I seen it all the whole time. And like beforehand when I got there, I was managing at Sprint. I used to work at the kiosk at the mall. I used to be the guy greeting all day like, hey, what kind of phone you got? That annoying ass dude. But that shit taught me so much. And then when I used those skills, I was a manager by the time I was 20. I'm 24 now, but I'll be 25 next month. And like 4 years of management, sales skills, that was enough for me to get in. And not even knowing, and this is a thing too for people that are trying to get into tech, like you don't even need a fucking degree. I don't even got a college degree. I only got a high school degree. And they took me in still as a reference because one of my homies from Nigeria too, his name's Timmy Noea. He's like, hey bro, I got you a reference. We get an opportunity to do an interview. I'm confident. I got the skills. I can close the interview. 3 interviews in, made it happen. Now I'm in. And for me, that was like at a point when I met Ruben, I was like, I can't do this shit. You know what I'm saying? So that was such a big step for me. You know what I'm saying? So
but you did it though. You know what I mean? Like he helped you along the way. He helped provide the path. He showed you the way, but you did it because you decided to go. You know what I mean? You decided to be open. You decided to say, it's about energy. Again, like you decided like, I'm going to come with a positive, hopeful, optimistic, whatever you want to call it, energy. That changed everything for you. And then also you mentioned like being the annoying dude at the kiosk, like, again, back to like, people on BART or on the train going to their jobs, but you can gain from your job. Like you have, I always say like, this is what I always said to me and my boys always said in high school and stuff, like, take our piece of the pie. Like you got to take your piece of the pie. For sure. You're putting your time, your energy there. Learn like what skills do you learn? Like how's the business operating? Like whatever it is, like take something from it. And apply it to yourself. Like Agreed. That's what it's all about. But apply it.
That's really what it was. Like all the sales stuff I learned from Sprint, I was like, let me take this piece, that piece. All right. And before it went to tech, it went into Emlyn. I started hustling at the flea market at the Oakland right there at Coliseum. At the swap meet, I was hustling all my clothing right there at the swap meet, greeting people. Like, they ain't never seen my energy at the flea market. They're over here like, who's this Mexican cat selling all this clothes and shit?
And
thread trapping and shit.
A phrase, it reminds me like a phrase I always say with the, like one of the taglines for my media business, Add Color, is like, you're a uniquely talented individual. There's never been one like you before, and there's never will be again.
Yep.
And I feel like everybody needs to realize that. Inside, it's
sure.
like all of your experiences in life, all the negativities, all the challenges, all the adversities, mixed with all your successes, mixed with, you know, what you've seen, your environment, how you grew up, how you were raised, your community, who you are, like all those things make you uniquely. Like, there's nobody like you. There's nobody like you. So it's like, you can take that and you may look at this as like, oh, I'm not where I want to be right now, and this position isn't really what I want to do. But you can take from that, and that's going to be a story of your journey. That's going to be a part of your journey in the end, and that's what it's all about. We all have something to add to this world.
Day by day, we get better and better, man.
Man, got to. You can get worse, but hey.
And that's another thing too I want to talk about is what I call the drought. I call it the drought because I feel like that's how I labeled it, because
The drought.
sometimes you got to go through that period in life where shit is just so dry, like you ain't got nothing going for yourself, or maybe you got some, but the momentum doesn't feel as hot as it was. And when you get to that position, because I'm pretty sure you had your experiences or your fair share, like when you went through a struggle and you felt like whatever you're doing right now didn't feel as achievable, right? So what are some things that you did to kind of like put yourself in that mind frame? I know you mentioned to maintain inspiration, but like, was that the only thing you did, or were other things that kind of like
absolutely that's a good question. The drought, I love that. I think a lot of you know, speaking to my like people who went to the college route and graduated route, and just in general, I feel like the age group of like 24 to like 30, 33, 35, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of like, oh, what now? Like, I've been learning my whole life, and I've been, you know, when I was a little kid, everybody said you could do anything in the world, and like now I'm older, and it's like I'm not really doing what I want to do, and I don't really know what I want to do. Exactly. And like, you call that the drought. I love that. I would call it being in the gray. My media business is called Add Color, and that's what it's about. Like, finding your purpose, finding your passion, doing that. That's what adds color to your life. So I think like I would call it being in the gray, being in the drought, being in that funk. There's a lot of things you could do. It's like you could either sink or swim kind of thing, where it's like, 100%. And I always feel like it's a balance though, because even, you know, people, I always preach, you know, positive energy and good vibes. That's like, you know, my brand. That's really what I always preach for. I'm always putting out there. But it doesn't mean I'm always positive. Yeah. You know, I think that's one of the most misconceived notions. It's like those comedians like who commit suicide, and you know, you see a lot of like a high suicide rate in artists in general, people who putting themselves out there to give pleasure to other people. Why is that? Well, a lot of times, you know, they said like back in like, you know, Greek times, like back in the Roman Empire and whatnot, they said all the artists at the time and during the Renaissance, they never really gave, the word genius is supposed to be like from God or something like that. So they never would consider their geniuses like of themselves. They always considered it from God. And it's like now we have a little bit of an opposite thing going on, where like a lot of geniuses is hard. If you're Kanye West and you have an arena of people, when you step on stage, they're screaming for you, and your face is blown up on these big, you know, screens, and you're Steph Curry and you're at the game, and if somebody's just screaming to get your shoelace, you know, it's hard. Like it's hard to remain humble or balanced if that's like going around you.
You feel like a god.
Exactly, right? But you know, you gotta, if you have, I think for me, I'm a spiritual, you know, person, a religious person. To me, a big thing when you're in those gray areas and those droughts is to realize that, like, you know, like there's a bigger purpose for your life, and there's a bigger plan. You know, there's a bigger plan. Like, you have to just remain confident in that. I also feel this. Let me ask you, you know, working at Sprint or working at a job that you didn't like in your past, you know, you get paid. People go to their 9 to 5s. They get paychecks every 2 weeks or every month, however it works. Comparing what you're doing as an entrepreneur and getting, you know, $200 from being an entrepreneur, doing whatever you're doing, versus getting $1,000 from your job, like, what feels better?
Shit, obviously whatever makes me happier. So if I'm getting paid less doing what I'm happy about, I'm gonna go all in on that.
I mean, it's good to have more money, but at the end of the day, like, I'm 100% with you. Like, for me, like, when I get paid, even if it's less from doing something that I've done, you know, like me personally, like, I mean, you do anything, even if you put in work in another business, you're still doing that time. But my point is that the ownership, back to the ownership thing. So even if you're in the gray, even if you're in that drought, what exactly are you doing? If you're doing something where you feel like you're doing your purpose, there's gonna be struggles with that. Like it's not gonna be smooth. You just mentioned earlier starting a business, like it's a lot of investments that you're gonna make that you're not gonna see a return on immediately. You gotta set things up, and you gotta go through, get the experiences that's gonna shape how you're gonna move forward in the future. So all that to say is, like, you have to have that mindset, that, you know, that purpose, you know, like it's back to the self-respect thing. Like, if you know that, you know, God has a bigger plan for you, has a bigger purpose for you, and you may not be seeing those results and those returns right now, but if you truly believe that, you'll carry yourself differently. It's not like, you know, it's like nothing's changed. Like, I always tell people, man, like, people always say, like, you got to see it to believe it. I feel like you got to believe it to see it.
Oh, agreed.
You got to believe it to see it. Like, you're doing the same thing as me, because before this interview started, we were looking at some of your unreleased interviews yet, the exclusive that people ain't even seen yet. You got a bunch of things that aren't out on the internet for people to see. I'm the same way. It's like I have a lot of things that aren't necessarily out yet in terms of visuals, in terms of podcasts, in terms of a lot, but I'm already operating as if they're done, because I'm on to the next thing. I'm moving ahead. It's like I see the bigger picture. I know, like, 2-3 months from now, people may say, like, oh, damn, I see how you're doing this. You're moving. Like, I've been doing this. You know what I mean? Exactly. This has been, even when I was in the gray, even when I was in the drought, I've been seeing the vision. It's always been there. I've always had the vision. Like, and it's, you know, there's going to be bad days. There's going to be good days. But, like, at the end of the day, like Nipsey, back to Nipsey, it's a marathon. It's a marathon. It's you got to see the vision. You see that finish line? Like, that's the vision. It's like, you got to keep going. Like, if you see it, and it's, again, you got to believe it to see it. That's how I look at it. So,
like my boy Juice would say all the time, man, I ain't new to this. I'm true to this. You know what I'm saying? I feel like it's like understanding, like, for some people, it's just the micro versus the macro. The macro perspective. You know what I'm saying? Like, me chasing Emlyn, like, just to give you a little background, Emlyn, because I know sometimes I have to explain it to some people, is that my goal is I want to be a distribution, right? I want to be the hub. I want to be the source. So pretty much, like, I hand select urban ascending fashion from all over the United States, and I want to be the distributor. So basically, see me as Macy's, and see Infant Legacy and Derilla's clothing as Calvin Klein, Michael Kors. Like, I want to be able to distribute it in that fashion. And along those lines is that we create our own marketing campaigns for every single brand. So us creating our own content is that this kind of brings the whole conversation with what was he saying? Not Nipsey Hussle. Actually, it was Nipsey Hussle. He said on one of the keynotes is that integrating vertically, where he talks about how being in control of everything you do from top to bottom. It's like I could easily have my own brand and outsource it to a different manufacturer, right? And I'm not owning that. They're creating that. They're getting the funds for that. Or also for giving my brand to an influencer or somebody that is getting their own attention. But, like, imagine if Emlyn being a network like ESPN, and I'm Stephen A. Smith. You get what I'm saying? I'm creating a brand internally, and there's a whole benefit to that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, when I saw the bigger picture, like, that's my goal, right? So it's like when I'm doing little stuff like this, I'm just like, my goal is that direction.
Yeah, you're not even. It's so, like your outer body experience, damn near. Like, you're not even here. It's like this is just a part of the process.
This is a part of the process. It's an element. You get what I'm saying? Like, we so far behind, but it's like I'm okay with it. You know what I'm saying? Because, like, you know, I get people that tell me all the time, like, bro, are you still doing Emlyn, bro? Like, you haven't even made no money yet. You haven't boomed yet. It's like, bro, it's been 3 years, bro. That ain't shit. What the fuck? That ain't shit. KFC, bro, didn't open till you 66 years old.
People always want something instantly. They see if you don't have a certain amount of success. We in a microwave society. Like, it don't work like that.
You said a microwave society.
It don't work
that's
like
a great
that.
Analogy right there.
It don't work like that. It just don't. Like, I respect that, though. I really do respect that, man. I feel like that's something that a lot of successful people share. It's not about, you know, like, when you have that vision, you're carrying yourself differently, you know, because you see the next steps ahead. Like, it's not just the interview. It's a part of this bigger process that you have for your brand, like a vision. And it's like when you have that in mind, you're moving differently. You carry yourself differently. Back to what we were saying earlier about if you're in the gray or you're in a drought and you're in a situation where you don't have a lot or you're not where you want to be. But if you have that vision, you'll carry yourself that way and you'll gravitate. You know, it's like The Secret. All the energy will come to you because, like, that's what you're on. Like, you're in a different world.
Exactly. You're like, you know? I say it as like you're riding your own wave.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
riding
like,
your own wave.
You know, just imagine that. Just visualize, like, me literally surfing. I'm riding my own wave. I created this fucking wave. I'm riding my own thing. You know what I'm saying?
And I you know, it's interesting for me because it's like I said, everybody is a, you know, unique individual. Everybody has a color to add to the world, everything. But I also understand that, you know, plenty of people aren't receptive to this.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
I know what you're saying.
there's a lot of people that, like, you know, I'm not worried about those people. I'm worried about those people that I can reach that, you know, I've been in their head, there's a voice in their head saying, I want to do more, I want to do it's my purpose, whatever. But a lot of people, you know, they feel like, you know, their purpose is to work a job. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
there's nothing wrong with, like,
there's nothing wrong with
anything. Like, not having, like, a big, like, that's fine. If you're happy and you...
Sorry to cut you off.
Go, no, you good.
I gotta hold my water.
You good.
Like I was just reading an article on LinkedIn about some guy that was a mail postman. He was doing it for 35 years, and he's retiring. He's retiring as of like recently, but they had like all the people in the community do this little like marathon thing for him where he ran his regular route, and they were like, you know, cheering him on or whatever because they knew that was his last route. And it's like hundreds of people doing that for him, you know what I'm saying? But he was like a happy person, like doing what he loved doing, you know what I'm saying? Always greeting the kids, like happy day, you know what I'm saying? That's at the end of the day, I just feel like it don't even matter what you do. It's just if you carry that positive energy in your skin, like that's the energy, that's your nature, then you just blessed, you know what I'm saying?
Like, so all right, let me real quick. So positive energy and good vibes, you can get that. It's basically it actually comes from like the Bible. It's a verse, Galatians 5:22-23, which is about the fruit of the Spirit, which is all these attributes. It's these 9 attributes that one should, you know, live their life by. It's not necessarily about what you do, but it's about how you are, like how you live by. So it's these great attributes of patience, goodness, gentleness, kindness, love, faithfulness, peacefulness, discipline, you know, all these different attributes, right? And so I sum that up as positive energy and good vibes. That's basically what I sum it up as. And to the point that you were making, like, it's about who you are as a person and like how you go through life. Like, you know, that mailman was known as somebody that like brought 100% of kindness. I could just hear that from the story, like to the point that it actually reciprocated with people and like, you know, it's mirrored in them. They get that, you know, the energy travels to them. You know, it's like they're spreading that. And I feel like any way that you can spread that into the world, like that's always going to be a good thing. You know, like that's never a bad thing to be positive. Like that's never the wrong thing to do. You know what I mean? It really is. Like it could carry you through. Like you can look at it, you can use it to reach your successes, to reach your goals, all those sort of things. But it's even independent from all that because like that's how you should be living. You know, so yeah, I think that's dope.
100%, man. So like. This is one of the last topics I want to bring up before we conclude. Is the recipe podcast is a little more involving the ingredients to like how you got to your position. Okay. For some people that kind of don't know a little bit more about your background, identify what is it that you represent, what you do, and what are some of the main things that really contributed to you to get to that level.
That's a good question. Recipe. So I would say surrounding yourself with people that you can learn from. We talked about learning earlier, how, you know, you're always learning. That's a mindset that I've had. It's like, what are you doing new? What are you learning new? It's similar to the vision thing. And similar to the vision thing we were just discussing. It's like when you're learning, I'm always like, I'll do a video, for example, with my media company, and like a lot of people will show a lot of love to it online. Like, oh, that's dope, man. How you did this transition? That's crazy. That's cool. And I'm usually like actually pretty negative about it. I'm just like, yeah, I mean, like that's nothing. The next thing I'm about to do is about to be crazy. So I'm always thinking about like, okay, I've learned how to do this. I'm gonna like struggle with it. These first videos aren't gonna be as great as they could, but once I master, I'm hard on myself because it's like I'm always looking to the next thing. And I think honestly, that's one area that I could be, improve a little bit on. You got to enjoy the journey. You know, you got to enjoy the process. And I do, but you know, it's like that ability to always be forward thinking, forward looking. I think that's key. Another key, like I said, is surround yourself with like people you can learn from. So I wouldn't be where I'm at, and I'm a lot of successful people. I'm sure you, like your story that you mentioned earlier, like you're not going to be where you're at unless like you're connecting with the right people. That people is everything, you know? So I've been blessed to be around people that are just really talented at what they do and like visionaries and like, you know, trap art. You know what I mean? Like most people know me through trap art. Like I know you through trap art. I meet a lot of dope people through trap art. Like trap art's such a big part of, you know, everybody's trap art. You are if you go to the events, like you're a part of it. It's a community basically. And like, it's just so dope. And, you know, I've been, my cousin, Jesse, who started it, you know, like that's been my best friend since day one. I was always going to be involved in no matter what he was doing. But just the fact that, you know, he was able to bring me in and we were able to, you know, create something and be a part of this community. It's like this just dope conglomerate. Like that's what it's all about. Like I learn from that community all the time, every day. I met 19 Keys through a Trapxart. 19 Keys is somebody that's my brother right there. And like similar to what I was saying earlier, like he's the same person. Like he's grown. His following is tremendously grown. He's doing great things right now. All those sort of things. But I'm talking about like when I talk to him, like who he is and whatnot. Like we still talk about the same things. We still talking about like people are just catching on to it. It's like he saw the vision. And people rode to his wave, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's the people that I surround myself with, like people who I have these conversations with that I grow from in this way. With my media company, man, Jonathan Shorter is one of the dopest videographers, photographers in the Bay. I learned a lot from him, you know. So it's just if you surround yourself with, you know, those type of people, like that's gonna be key for you progressing and you growing. But the key is though application, because it would be easy for me to just do Trapxart. It would be easy for me to just work on projects with, you know, Jonathan and doing things like that. It'd be easy for me to, you know, I had a podcast with 19 Keys, Nothing's Random podcast, like to just keep that going because he's gaining traction and whatnot. But I feel like for anybody in your own journey, like the only thing that you owe in this world is like figuring out what your purpose is. And like, even if when you surround yourself with good people and all that, you also have to know when it's time to you know, to focus on what you need to focus on for yourself. Like focus on your goal and your thing.
That's a really good angle. And I feel like this is where I'm going to ask you the last question. Yeah. Because I feel like this could help out a lot of people.
Right.
Because this is what problems happen when you build teams, right? Maybe not for you guys, because I feel like you guys have a very great team. You know what I'm saying? How do you guys elevate each other without one feeling like discouraged by not being the face, or like not being like, that, you know what I'm saying, like they're getting envious of their pace and their pace ain't as fast as yours? Like, how do you guys like not only able to identify that and make sure you guys can still execute the vision?
Absolutely. Great question. I would say number one, like in general, I think this is something that Amina or Jesse, one of them, said that I've always kind of agreed with. It's like rock with people who rock with you. You know what I mean? Like, and vice versa. It's like, when somebody wants to contribute, like they're going to contribute. I think like in my business, in Trapxart in general, there's people all the time who come up and they say like, I want to be involved. I want to, you know, help out, do X, Y, and Z. I'm like, sure, we can meet on this date. We can talk about things and they won't come, or they'll be late, or they'll, you know, like, and it's like, all right, I'm gonna keep it moving. I really don't care. It's like, I don't know why you would waste your time reaching out to me if you wasting your time, you know? So I think to your original question though, like in terms of like being the face or like, you know, the notoriety and how is all that, the chemistry and those sort of things work. It's just like, what are you bringing to the table? Like that, I just feel like that's the mindset I've always had. Like, it's not about, you know, ego can kill you, man. Ego, and we all have it. You know, we all have things that, you know, we want to, you know, ego is just basically I think ego is such a complicated thing, man. Like, at its basic core, it's an identity of self. Like the fact that you even think about yourself and your, like, that's ego. Like, it's not about, people always have this bad stigma with ego. It can be problematic, but really it's just an identity of self. Like, that's really what it is. And that's like, that's kind of something you need if you're gonna, right? Like, there's at least a little bit of it that you're gonna need. You have to know what your purpose is, who you are, what makes you different, what makes you a unique individual. So, but I just feel like that's the key. Like, what do you bring to the table? What is your key ingredient? You know, speaking on that, like, what's your key ingredient, and making sure that, you know, people know, like, you know, this is a part of this great gumbo, but I'm bringing this secret sauce, you know?
Hell yeah, secret sauce, man. They got to know. All right, man. I think that was a very good piece right there, and I think a lot of people will take this away and reflect on their own team and their own projects, because I feel like that was a good subject, because I had my challenges in the past with teams, so I feel like it's a great thing to end off with. Is there any last-minute things that you want to tell the audience, any things they want to know about, what's coming out, what to expect?
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity of being on this podcast, man, being here with you, rocking with you. This started a long time ago, like we said, because just on the energy alone, like, I already knew, like, we were going to do something. Like, we were going to link up. Eventually. We're going to make something happen. This is just the first of hopefully many. I want to actually get you on my podcast.
We got to, man. We got to make it happen.
So I guess for the people out there, like, PEGV Life, Positive Energy and Good Vibes. It's pegvlife.com. That's the website where you can purchase merch. Also, PEGV Life on iTunes podcast. That's where I'm going to be releasing the podcast. It's basically a podcast channel, again, preaching the message of positive energy and good vibes. So there's going to be a few different series on there. The main ones is going to be Positive Talk, which is interviews with people from all different walks of life, from entrepreneurship, business, lifestyle, etc., talking about how they responded positively to different challenges that they faced in their life. So different adversities, how they get through, different challenges, different things like that nature, like how did they find a way out and how did they get through. That's what that podcast is about. I also have the I Quit podcast, which is basically about people who have made that leap of faith to quit not only their jobs, but whatever it was in their life, their relationships, their lifestyles, something that they knew they had to let go of in order to reach their higher purpose or what they feel like their calling was. So those are 2 podcasts I'm going to be putting out on that channel. So make sure y'all stay tuned. And I'll definitely be following up with you, man. I got to get you on one of these days, man. And bring you out to Oakland. Yeah, exactly.
I love it over there, man. First Friday, Trapxart, I love it all, man.
Absolutely.
With that being said, make sure you guys tap in with him, follow him. Highly encourage. Make sure you guys check out Trapxart, the event.
Yeah.
When's the next Trapxart coming up?
The next Trapxart is actually this Friday at Minna. I believe it's at Minna. Just check the Trapxart. Make sure you follow Trapxart. We always doing events. Like I said, we're doing events international. And we've done events in Toronto. We're doing events in Chicago, I think, next week. So we're all over the place.
And just so the audience knows, it's everywhere. So you guys might have an opportunity to.
It might be in your city, man.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all got to make sure y'all slide through. It's your boy BQ. My dog, Amechi.
Hey,
before I make that mistake again.
Hey, it's all good. Amechi. Like, I met Chi, man. There you go.
Amechi. All right, with that being said, it's Recipe Podcast for the game of soul not told. And we out.
Bet.
Appreciate you, bro. That shit came out solid, bro.
Right on.
I thought we touched on everything, exactly what I envisioned it to be, too.
Dope, man.